What is visceral fat? And when should you see a doctor about it? Visceral fat is a hidden health condition that most people are not aware of it because it cannot be seen or touched. Unlike subcutaneous fat, which lies under the skin and we can pinch it, visceral fat lies deep in the belly and it surrounds our vital organs. So, you don't just realize that it's there. Visceral fat is a major public health concern because it has been linked to stroke, type 2 diabetes, some cancers like breast and colon cancer, and other diseases. While visceral fat cannot be seen, there are a number of ways that you can tell if you have it. In this video, I'm going to be looking at 5 indicators that you should seek medical advice for visceral fat. So keep watching so that you don't miss any. Hello and welcome. My name is Bati Ayok Uchingamba. Visceral fat or belly fat complicates every health issue. But what most people don't know is that there are a number of ways you can check, and there are certain indicators that might let you know that your visceral fat is getting too much or is a lot. The very first one is to check your blood sugar. And the indicator here is if you are pre-diabetic or if you have pre-diabetes. And what does this mean? This means that your blood sugar is higher than normal, but is not yet high enough to be diagnosed as type 2 diabetes. Why is this an indicator of visceral fat? According to the global diabetes community, visceral fat has been linked to insulin resistance, and these lead to glucose intolerance and type 2 diabetes. Also, research shows that visceral fat secretes a carrier protein called retinol binding protein 4 that has been linked to increased insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. The second way you can know if you have a lot of visceral fat is to check your blood pressure. And a sign or indicator of this will be if your blood pressure is higher than normal. Why is this so? According to information from the National Library of Medicine, excess visceral fat can cause inflammation, and inflammation has been linked to high blood pressure. Also, a research study that was carried out in non-diabetic men showed that a lot of visceral fat or high body visceral fat and high blood pressure with insulin resistance were all connected to certain abnormalities. So if your blood pressure is higher than normal, it can be an indicator that you might be having a lot of visceral fat. The third indicator is to check your BMI, that is your body mass index. Your body mass index is a ratio of your weight and your height. An indicator of a lot of visceral fat will be if your BMI is greater than 25. This can mean that you might be having a lot of visceral fat. The fourth indicator is to check your waist circumference. You measure the circumference of your waist. And an indicator will be if your waist circumference is greater than these values. For men, if your waist circumference is greater than 40 inches, that is 102 centimeters, then it's an indicator that you might be having a lot of visceral fat. For women, if your waist circumference is greater than 35 inches or 88 centimeters, this is a sign that you might be having a lot of visceral fat. Number 5 is to measure your waist to hip ratio. Your waist to hip ratio can be an indicator of a lot of visceral fat. How is this done? You first of all have to measure your waist circumference, and then you measure the circumference of your hips. After you've gotten these two measurements, you can calculate your waist to hip ratio by taking your waist circumference, dividing it by your hip circumference. And as this ratio increases, so does your health risk. When your waist to hip ratio is greater than 0.95 for men and 0.86 for women under the age of 60, the health risk is very high. And for those over 60, when your waist to hip ratio is greater than 1.03 for men and 0.90 for females or for women, your health risk is very high. So you might want to check your waist to hip ratio to know if you have a lot of visceral fat. So these are 5 ways and the 5 indicators to know if your visceral fat is too much. In this video, I have talked about step-by-step ways on how to measure your waist circumference and your waist to hip ratio and how to know if it is becoming dangerous for your health. So you might want to check that out. Thank you for watching so far and see you in my next video. Bye-bye.